Hey friends, there are betrayals in love that feel less like a wound and more like a quiet erosion of the soul, slow, invisible, and yet utterly devastating. In the serene but brutal language of Stoicism, we are reminded that not all suffering is loud and not all forgiveness is virtuous. Sometimes, the most dignified act is to walk away, not in anger, but in unwavering self-respect. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When we forgive too quickly what should have been remembered, we risk staining our essence with someone else's disregard. Love, in its truest form, is a sanctuary, a space where vulnerability is safe, where presence is sacred, where truth is honored. But betrayal turns that sanctuary into a stage of illusion. And some betrayals do not deserve healing, not because we are bitter, but because healing them would mean betraying ourselves. It would mean lowering the standards of what we know we are worthy of just to maintain a connection built on the ruins of integrity. There is a Stoic courage in drawing boundaries. Epictetus taught that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. And what greater judgment is there than realizing someone you trusted has violated the pact of love, that they have seen your softness and still chosen to wound it, that they used affection not to build, but to manipulate, to deceive, to control? This video is not about vengeance, it's about awareness, about recognizing the quiet poison of certain betrayals and making the conscious choice to never allow them twice. Forgiveness is noble, but self-betrayal is not. Today, we will unearth 5 kinds of betrayals in love that are not just painful, but transformative. The ones you should never tolerate, excuse, or carry in silence. Because love, when real, will never ask you to abandon your dignity. Let's go start. Number 1. The betrayal of emotional neglect, when your soul is silently starved. There's a kind of betrayal that doesn't come with shouting or slamming doors. It arrives slowly, in the form of silence, distance, and indifference. It's when the person you love stops seeing you, not because you've disappeared, but because they've chosen to stop looking. Emotional neglect is one of the most underestimated betrayals in love, yet it corrodes you from the inside out. It's the kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves you questioning your worth in the quiet hours of the night. The Stoics remind us that we must not place our happiness in the hands of others. But that doesn't mean we should accept the absence of warmth where love once lived. When someone consistently ignores your emotional needs, when your voice becomes background noise, when your inner world is no longer a place they visit with curiosity or care, they are not just being forgetful. They are choosing to dishonor the invisible threads that keep love alive. Emotional neglect says, "You don't matter," not in words, but in the language of absence. It turns affection into duty, conversation into transaction, intimacy into performance, and what's worse, it makes you feel guilty for wanting to be seen. But let this be your truth: wanting to be emotionally met, heard, and held is not a weakness. It is the deepest expression of your humanity. Marcus Aurelius warned us against allowing ourselves to become indifferent to our own suffering. To forgive this kind of betrayal is to participate in your own fading. It teaches you to accept crumbs when your soul was built for feasts of connection. Never make peace with someone who starves you while smiling, who offers presence but not attention, who remains physically near but emotionally vacant. Forgiving emotional neglect too often leads to a quiet self-abandonment, and no love is worth losing yourself for. Number 2. The betrayal of public loyalty and private disrespect, when she shames you behind closed doors. There's a quiet kind of betrayal that doesn't make headlines in the heart. It doesn't scream, doesn't slap, doesn't storm out, but it slices, clean and deep. It's when the woman who holds your hand in public becomes someone entirely different behind closed doors. She calls you her king when eyes are watching, but treats you like a servant when no one else can hear. She compliments your strength in public, but questions your manhood in private. This betrayal isn't about what she says. It's about what she truly believes when she thinks you have nowhere else to go. A woman who performs love for the world but withholds it in the intimacy of the relationship wounds you in places few can see. The Stoics taught us that character is not shown in grand gestures, but in the private, quiet decisions. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And yet, when you are constantly being disrespected in silence, your reactions begin to betray yourself. You try to stay calm, to forgive, to hope, but each unspoken insult becomes a crack in your dignity. The worst part? She knows what she's doing. It is a betrayal crafted from power, not love. Respect is the bedrock of any relationship. Without it, love is just manipulation wrapped in emotion. A woman who praises you in front of friends but emasculates you in arguments, mocks your dreams, or speaks to you like you are smaller than her, that is not love. That is control wearing perfume. That is humiliation disguised as passion. You cannot build a peaceful life with someone who confuses love with leverage. Some betrayals are loud, but this one is especially dangerous because it tricks you into staying. You start making excuses for her. She was just tired. She didn't mean it. She's under stress. But love doesn't consistently humiliate. A partner who truly values you protects your reputation even in your absence and guards your spirit even in her anger. Anything less than this is a betrayal to your soul, and this is why you must never forgive repeated private disrespect. Because each time you let it pass, you train yourself to accept less. You shrink so she can feel big. You bend until your back breaks. A man must know his worth, not by how loud he roars, but by how silently he walks away when his value is being corroded. The Stoics didn't teach us to become stone. They taught us to become steel, calm, deliberate, unmoved by petty insults, but unwavering in principles. You forgive when the soul has shown remorse, but when there is a pattern of disrespect, no apology, no accountability, no growth, you owe yourself detachment, not another chance. Let her go, not in anger, but in awareness. Let her learn that love is not measured by what you do in public, but by the respect you give when no one's watching. Let your silence become your boundary. Let your peace be the proof that you no longer need to beg for basic dignity, because a man who honors himself cannot be disrespected in secret for long. And when he walks away, he doesn't just leave her, he finds himself. Number 3, the betrayal of comparison, when she quietly measures you against other men. There is no wound more quietly humiliating than being compared to another man by the woman you've given your heart to. It doesn't always come with a direct insult. Sometimes it's subtle, a comment about her ex's ambition, a lingering admiration for someone else's confidence, a praise for another man's looks or success that slips into the air like perfume laced with poison. At first, you ignore it. You tell yourself you're imagining it, overthinking it. But deep down, something shifts. You feel yourself competing in a race you never signed up for, a race to be enough. This is the betrayal of comparison. The invisible scar it leaves on a man's soul is difficult to name, but it eats away at confidence and self-worth. A woman who truly loves you doesn't use other men as measuring sticks. She sees you not as a contestant in a silent game of worthiness, but as the only one in her universe. When she begins to admire other men out loud in your presence, or worse, uses them as a way to trigger your insecurity, it is not merely disrespect, it's emotional violence in disguise. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And yet, when you are constantly being compared, your focus shifts from being to proving. You become a man who is constantly auditioning for love. You start trying harder, losing yourself in the chase for validation. But no amount of success can satisfy a woman who has already placed someone else above you in her imagination. Her fantasy becomes your prison. And here's the dark truth: comparison is rarely accidental. When done repeatedly, it's a power move. It's used to control, to diminish, to keep you feeling just insecure enough to work harder for her attention. But real love isn't earned through insecurity. It's offered in presence, not performance. A woman who loves you deeply doesn't need you to be someone else. She needs you to be you. And if that's not enough for her, then her love was never real. It was conditional, selective, and rooted in illusion. The Stoics teach us to return always to the center of ourselves, to remain untouched by external chaos. But being compared, even silently, tests your emotional center. It challenges your pride, your peace, your power. You begin to wonder if your love is enough, if your efforts matter, if you are just a shadow to the idea of a better man in her mind. This betrayal is slow, but deadly, and it must not be forgiven when it becomes a pattern, because forgiveness, in this case, teaches her that your value is negotiable, that you're willing to compete for a throne you already sat on, that you will tolerate emotional games as long as she throws you crumbs of attention. But a man who knows his worth doesn't accept being second place in the mind of the woman who sleeps next to him. Leave not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to no longer beg for comparison's mercy. You don't need to outshine anyone. You need only to walk into the light of your own dignity and refuse to stay where you're measured instead of loved. The man who detaches from comparison is the man who rediscovers his power. He stops chasing mirrors and becomes the mountain. Number 4, the betrayal of emotional withholding, when she starves you of affection to control you. Love is supposed to be a sanctuary, a sacred place where two souls find rest, tenderness, and renewal. But what happens when the one you love begins to ration affection like a weapon of control, when her silence becomes louder than words and her coldness feels like punishment? This is the betrayal of emotional withholding, and it is one of the most silent yet cruel forms of manipulation a man can endure. At first, it may seem like she's just upset, distant, or going through something personal, but over time, a pattern forms. She becomes warm only when things go her way. Her affection becomes conditional. She touches you, praises you, looks into your eyes, only when you've fulfilled her expectations. But when you falter or assert your needs, she withdraws. She becomes quiet, passive-aggressive, dismissive. You begin to feel like love has a price, and it's paid through submission. In these moments, many men bend. They apologize for things they didn't do. They walk on eggshells, overcorrect, overgive, just to feel that brief return of warmth. But what they don't realize is that they've stepped into a psychological trap. She's training you, not loving you. Her emotional distance becomes a form of control. You are no longer a partner. You're a performer auditioning for love in a theater of silence. The Stoics warned against becoming a slave to emotion, but they also taught us never to let another's coldness determine our inner climate. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The same applies here. When a woman withholds affection to punish or manipulate, the answer is not to beg, chase, or shrink. It is to return to your own emotional self-respect. Emotional withholding is not just an absence of love, it is a distortion of it. It tells you, you are not worthy unless you please me. It turns connection into currency, where your worth is weighed by your obedience. But real love does not operate through scarcity. It flows freely, even in disagreement. A woman who truly loves you may get upset, yes, but she will never deprive you of kindness just to make you bend. Many men stay because they hope the coldness is temporary. They remember how warm she used to be. They think, if I just fix this, maybe she'll come back to me. But what they don't see is that the warmth has become a tool. She gives just enough to keep you hoping. It's not love, it's intermittent reinforcement, the same tactic used in toxic relationships to create addiction. You're not in love. You're trapped in a loop of reward and punishment. This betrayal must never be forgiven when it becomes a cycle, because forgiving it teaches her that love can be manipulated without consequence. It tells her that your hunger for affection is stronger than your self-worth, that you'll accept crumbs as long as they're laced with the memory of past intimacy. But you are not here to beg for love. You are not a man who should be trained through silence. If she cannot give you warmth when you're not perfect, her love is a transaction, not a connection. Walk away, not to punish her, but to protect the sacred space of your heart. You deserve a love that speaks, touches, and stays, even when you fall short. Let her coldness be the fire that forges your independence. Let her silence become the echo that reminds you to listen to your own worth again. Number 5, the betrayal of dismissing your dreams. When she wants you to shrink to fit her vision. Love is supposed to be a partnership where both individuals grow, evolve, and rise to become their best selves. It is the union of two distinct journeys, where each person brings their dreams, passions, and vision for the future. But what happens when, instead of lifting you, she tries to stifle your aspirations, making you feel small in the process? This is the betrayal of dismissing your dreams, and it's one of the most insidious forms of control in a relationship. At the outset of love, it may seem like she supports your goals, encourages your growth. She's the first one to cheer you on when you embark on new ventures. But over time, as the relationship deepens, you begin to sense a subtle shift. Your dreams, once embraced with excitement, now seem inconvenient. They're met with skepticism, sarcasm, or indifference. You share your plans, your visions, only to be greeted with passive-aggressive comments, dismissive tones, or outright discouragement. This may start small, almost imperceptible. A joke about your ambitions, a comment about how unrealistic your dreams are, or a suggestion that you focus on more practical things. But as this pattern continues, it becomes clear that she isn't just trying to steer you away from a bad decision. She is trying to reshape you into her vision of who you should be. She doesn't want you to be the person you are meant to become. She wants you to shrink, to fit into the mold she's created for you, to live a life that caters to her comfort rather than your growth. Marcus Aurelius taught that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. If you are in a relationship with someone who tries to diminish your aspirations, you face an obstacle. But this obstacle is not her. The real challenge is your own willingness to compromise your truth for the sake of peace. It is your acceptance of her narrow vision instead of embracing your own. The real question is, what are you willing to sacrifice, your self-worth or your potential? When she dismisses your dreams, she is in effect dismissing your soul's calling. Dreams are not just desires. They are the lifeblood of your existence, the essence of who you are. They are what make you feel alive, what push you to become more than what you are in the moment. To have those dreams ridiculed, ignored, or belittled is a betrayal of the most profound kind. It is a betrayal of your identity, your purpose, and your future. And yet, many men stay in these relationships, hoping that with time, she'll come to understand. They think, if I just show her how much I care, maybe she'll support me again. But what they fail to see is that her lack of support is not just about them, it's about her refusal to see them as independent, growing, evolving individuals. It's about her need to keep them tethered to her world, to remain in control. The betrayal of dismissing your dreams is not just a mistake, it is a reflection of a fundamental misalignment of values. In these moments, you must remember that a partner should uplift you, not constrain you. They should support your dreams, even if they don't fully understand them, because they recognize the significance of those dreams in your life. This is a betrayal that cannot be forgiven because it is a refusal to honor the essence of who you are. It is an attempt to crush the very spark of life that makes you unique. When someone does not see your dreams as worthy of respect, it is time to walk away, not because you are angry, but because your worth demands it. You were never meant to shrink in another person's shadow. You were meant to grow, to soar, to live fully as the person you were born to be. Your dreams are yours, and no one, not even someone you love, has the right to diminish them. To stay in a relationship where your aspirations are trampled is to forsake your own soul. Choose your future over a false sense of loyalty. Choose to rise above the person who seeks to bring you down. And in doing so, you will reclaim your power, your purpose, and your path. Conclusion: as we reflect on these 5 betrayals, it becomes clear that love is not meant to be a cycle of pain, sacrifice, and manipulation. True love builds, nurtures, and elevates. When love is manipulated, when trust is broken, when promises are shattered, or when you're made to feel small, it's no longer the sacred bond it was meant to be. These betrayals are not just mistakes. They are profound misalignment that drain your energy, your self-worth, and your peace of mind. No one deserves to be in a relationship where they are asked to betray themselves, their dreams, or their identity. Love, when pure, should elevate you to become the best version of yourself. It should not cage you in fear, insecurity, or doubt. The moment someone tries to break you down, manipulate you, or diminish your essence, it is not a relationship worth saving. Remember, forgiveness does not mean accepting toxic behavior. It means choosing peace for yourself, a peace that comes from letting go of those who cannot value you as you deserve to be valued. You owe it to yourself to walk away from the love that asks you to sacrifice who you are and who you are meant to become. In this journey, there's a deeper truth we must all face. You deserve a love that nurtures, that listens, that grows with you. Don't settle for anything less. Honor your own worth, your boundaries, and your dreams. Do not let betrayal dim the light of your soul. If you found this video meaningful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Join our community of individuals who are committed to emotional growth, self-respect, and healthy, fulfilling relationships. We explore these deep truths together, one step at a time. Let's continue this journey of self-love and understanding. Let's grow stronger and wiser, always choosing the love we truly deserve.